Welcome to the IDP guys, soon to be IDP Plus Mock Draft Monday. I'm Ricky Roderick. I'm your host today. You can find me on X at RickyRod66. And I'm joined with 5 plus 1 other esteemed colleagues, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And I wanted to give them a chance to briefly introduce themselves and where you can find them. And so we'll start with JJ.
Hey, I'm JJ Wenner. You can find me on Twitter at JJ Wenner. I'm going to be on a lot of these mock draft Mondays, so I'm excited to be working with the IDP Plus crew.
Thank you, JJ. Steve. Steve?
Thank you for the kind words, Ricky. Esteemed is very questionable for me. I'm Steve Hungar. You can find me on Twitter. Most people, just message me, hit me up. I'm over at the Fantasy Six Pack as well as IDP guys. I also write sometimes for Fantasy Pros. Hit me up. I'm kind of just hanging around. Ask me anything you want, IDP wise, a little offense too.
Joe.
Hey all, I'm Joseph Harlow. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at JoeLo63. You can see it below my name right there if you're watching on YouTube. I do all my writing and such with the IDP guys from the waiver wire show this past season, and now just doing a bunch of dynasty and rookie reports right now. You can catch at the idpguys.org.
Thank you, Joe. Johnny. Johnny?
Hey guys, I'm Johnny Christoffi on Twitter at Johnny F1, best known as Johnny Freaking Fantasy. I started here working with IDP Plus in November. I've been a writer for a few months, and I'm blessed to be on this podcast with you guys today. Let's get this money.
Thank you, Johnny. And last but certainly not least, one of my start-sit cohorts from a weekly basis, Sean.
I didn't get an esteemed in there, but I'm not going to take it personal.
I would.
Yeah. I'm making notes, but I'm not taking it personal. You can follow me at Sean8386 on Twitter. Doing a little bit of writing, probably jumping on some more of these box with you guys.
And Sean is truly esteemed. My apologies for not calling it out, Sean. And also, having to join us remotely, unfortunately, is Michael Sicoli. And Michael was another one of our co-hosts on the Start Sit weekly show that we had. So Michael will draft remotely, and we will help with some of the commentary around his picks. And since he's not here to defend himself, we may have quite a bit of fun with that.
Like he can't hear what I'm saying about him right now, right?
That is correct. He's only going to see the draft board. So we will have quite the fun with Michael.
Nice.
Okay, so the way it's going to go from a picks. Well, first let's talk about the draft. This is going to be an IDP only mock draft this time. 4 rounds, 12 teams. It's a 5-position IDP. So we will have defensive tackle, edge, linebacker, cornerback, and safety. You do not have to draft from all the positions, but we're going to have all 5 positions available. The scoring system is such, hopefully, that it encourages you to look at all the 5 positions. Solo tackles being 1.7 points, assisted tackles being 1.3 points, interceptions 6 points, sacks 5 points, passes defense 1.5. So it's got higher scoring on tackles and higher scoring for big plays as well. So that is the scoring system that our esteemed colleagues here are going to be using as they make their draft picks. Okay, so it is a redraft as well. So this is not from a dynasty perspective. And that is the kind of a little bit of the logistics of the draft. Now, Sean, for those that might have seen our offensive IDP mock draft from last week, we are changing the order a little bit. So Sean is going to have picks 1 and 7. Johnny's going to have picks 2 and 8. JJ's going to have picks 3 and 9. Joe's going to have picks 4 and 10. Steve is going to have picks 5 and 11. And then Michael, who's doing it remotely, will have picks 6 and 12. Okay, so it's going to be real interesting. Some of the things I'm interested to see as we go through this draft will include, is edge or linebackers going to dominate the first round? Age versus youth at some of the spots like linebacker. Where will your Bobby Wagner's and CJ Mosley's and Demario Davis's fall, for example? youth and aged and injuries at defensive end. Jalen Phillips, who was having a great year, Bradley Chubb, but they were injured. What does that do to their draft stock? Khalil Mack and Matt Judon getting up in age, Judon being injured as well. So lots of interesting stuff, not to mention some of the rookies from the 2023 NFL draft. Where does a Will Anderson go, or some of the rookies that kind of stepped up as the year progressed? Your Lucas Van Nesses, your Jack Campbells, your Kalijah Kansies really showing up in the playoffs. So really interested to see where all this is going to go. And with that, though, we're going to get the draft rolling. And we're pulling up the draft here. And we're going to change the layout just a little bit. There we go. And with that, with the first pick of our IDP redraft mock draft, we will go with Mr. Sean. You are up, Sean. And notice I used Mr. for the record.
Yeah, I'm moving up. This is great. Boy, I usually go linebacker heavy. That's usually my calling card. But for this particular draft and with the scoring setup, I'm leaning Max Crosby as the one picker.
Max Crosby goes with the number 1 pick here. Okay. All right. So pick number 2, we're going to go to Johnny.
I really like that first pick. If you know my first and second picks aren't tough here, I'm blessed for that. So Max Crosby was going to be my number 2 if this guy wasn't available, and that's T.J. Watt, lead the league in sacks. Crosby did have the advantage in tackles for loss. This is a league though we're getting 5 points for tackle for loss, or was it 5
points for a sack? Yep,
5 points for a sack. This is sack heavy. To me, those two are unanimous 1s and 2s.
Okay, 2 edge players to start things on here in this mock draft. JJ, over to you with the 3rd pick here.
I just wanted to say for the record, I'm a little bit intimidated drafting with all these IDP luminaries on the pod. So I'm just an enthusiast, but I'm going with Myles Garrett. I love Myles Garrett. He took his game to another level this year. He brought in run defense, solid tackle floor. I like Myles Garrett. So that's an easy pick for me.
That extra point block that he did where he jumped over the lineman and cleared him was pretty amazing. He's quite the athlete still. Okay. And JJ, I know you're being a little humble there, but yeah, you know your IDP fairly well there, buddy.
A little bit.
A little bit there. Okay, Joe with pick number 4.
Well, I got to say, JJ, I hate that pick because that's what I was going to take. So,
okay, good.
I think he's the best defensive player in football right now. Maybe not for fantasy, but I think, he should be defensive player of the year in my opinion. But I'm going to take someone who has been in the running the last 2 years, and that's Micah Parsons. I was very low on him coming into this season, and he definitely did take a step back without having that linebacker tackle upside, but the dude is an insane edge threat. Led the league in pressures and pass rush win rate. It's a hard one to say, but sacks didn't fully get there for him. He finished with 13, I think, but he is an absolute menace, good in the run defense game. And against better teams, he does move to linebacker still a little bit, which he did not at the end of last year. So if that keeps up, that actually increases his floor a little bit as well. So Parsons is the go-to here. Boom or bust, though.
Excellent. Okay, Micah Parsons. Okay, 4 edge players. Okay, Steve, you are up at number 5.
Yeah, just reading the board, you see the way this draft is going, and there's a run on defensive lineman edges super early. So just give me Nick Bosa so I can set it and forget it.
Nick Bosa with pick number 5. And now we will see how well this works. So our man Michael Sicoli is working remotely here, and we'll give him some time to make his pick. And if we run into little challenges, I may have to jump in and help out as well here. This is where the Jeopardy music should be playing. So while we're waiting for Michael to potentially make this pick here, one of the things this says early on is when it comes to all fantasy leagues, but particularly when it comes to IDP leagues, knowing the scoring system is absolutely critical for it. And some people love to go tackle heavy in scoring. Some love to go big play heavy in scoring. Some trying to find that balanced mix and all. And then, of course, then the number of IDP players on your team make a huge difference as well. So we're going to help out Michael a little bit here with this pick. And I see he's texting in. He's saying Foy Aluakon. Let's add Foy Aluakon. He put it into the chat there. Okay, so first linebacker off the board, and the highest scoring linebacker in many IDP leagues from our Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, back to number 7 and Sean.
That would have been my pick here. Foye would have been, because I feel like the top tier of edge rushers have went, and so now there's a tier break between those next guys. So at this time would be a good time to flip to linebacker. Roquan is going to be my pick, even though I think with that team being better, he's getting some less opportunities, but he's still the man there. And with the potential of Patrick Queen leaving this year, it increases his chances even more.
Roquan Smith. So after the run of the edges, feeling that there might be a tier break off, and we're jumping into the linebackers with high tackle ceilings. Okay, we are on to Johnny next.
So I'm still torn on this scoring here, how it's so sack heavy. And with that being said, I think my next pick is going to be Josh Allen from Jacksonville. Just kind of definitely improved on the last 2 years, and did well in tackles for loss. He was top 10 in sacks. So I think he's a shoe-in here. I think that's a good pick for me. This is a little bit of a gray area now. These picks are a little bit tougher than 1 through 3, but I think Josh Allen, if you walk away with him here, I think he continues to grow on what he's done next year.
Josh Allen from the Jags in that next slot. Okay, JJ.
All right. Josh Allen just went. I'm going to, again, go with the edge player. Looking at what is left, which is almost everybody. I'm going to go with the young guy, Aiden Hutchinson. I like the energy he has brought to the Detroit defense, and I think he has a high floor. He definitely gets the snaps. Yeah. Hutchinson's an easy pick for me there.
Hutchinson in the 9 slot. Okay, Joe, you are up at pick number 10.
So it's time for the first shock of this draft, I think. I'm going with someone who is my number 1 dynasty linebacker, player who I think could be a top 5 linebacker this year, if not linebacker 1. The scoring system helps that, as I think he is also the best blitzing linebacker in the league. That is Ernest Jones of the Rams. The dude is an absolute monster. As you saw in the wildcard game, he had 2 sacks. His tackle numbers can be up and down a bit, but I expect as he gets older and sees more game action, that consistency will get a little better. I think he's just an absolute dynamic player and so fun. Someone I also have draft bias in. I was super high on him coming out of South Carolina and have him everywhere. So that makes me feel good.
All right.
Yeah, good pick.
Ernest Jones here at pick number 10. Okay, Steve.
Right. Context matters, right? So first thing you want to do in any draft is look at the scoring. And when you add up all the math, you'll see how incredibly fair and balanced this scoring is. So you can go any way you want, especially when you're back into the draft. I love your pick, Joe. I'm going to go an old dude. I'm going to go the guy who's actually number 2 in scoring and the number 2 linebacker in this format, and that's Bobby Wagner. I'm taking a chance. So redraft, let me do it.
Bobby Wagner. So that was one of the questions we asked up front, is how high would some of the more veterans go? I feel funny calling them old when I'm almost twice his age, but but Bobby Wagner goes in spot number 11. Okay, and then Michael to round up to wrap up round 12. And I think he is typing right now, so we're about to get his pick. So while we're doing that, so Steve, you looks like you did a little bit research on the math for this mock draft. You want to share it a little bit with that with everyone?
Yeah, Yeah, I will. Hold on, let me pull it up for you. So man, I just lost it. So sacks are
5
give me
points.
yeah, sacks are 5 points, and you got to calculate the hits too. I think that's 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 6, and we get tackle for loss. That's 7, right? So now we're going to divide that by the tackles. What are you giving? 1.5.
1.7 per tackle. Yep.
Yeah, 1.7. So, fast math, I'm not a good mathematician. What is that? 4.1-ish, 4.2-ish. So it's revealed that this draft scoring is a balanced draft. So you can really go DL or linebacker. I would have took Wagner actually earlier, but everybody kept gobbling up those elite defensive linemen, so I don't want to get lapped.
Okay. All right, and with the 12th pick in ending up the first round is Daniil Hunter is who Michael goes.
Nice.
That's
Very
which
nice.
is a very nice pick. A lot of head shaking on this one, and not to mention, just like in our offensive draft last week, where we had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase from the fighting LSU Tigers going in the first round. There's another LSU Tiger going in the first round. You just can't avoid them; they're everywhere. Okay, so for our listening audience, the first round. Just to recap, the first round, the first 4 picks were Max Crosby, T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons. Your next 4 were Nick Bosa, Foy Luakan, Roquan Smith, and Josh Allen. And then your last 4 rounding of the first round were Aiden Hutchinson, Ernest Jones, Bobby Wagner, and Daniil Hunter. Joe, let's go to you. Any thoughts on the old man Bobby Wagner, particularly as a free agent now? Good age and all. You particularly with the way you went young ahead of it with Ernest Jones. Interested in your take on that one?
So Wagner's a tough one. I think a lot of it really depends on where he ends up. But he was really not that good this year, like at all. He should not have been on the field as much as he was. But if you're going to have Bobby Wagner, you're going to play him. It's part of the deal. So I would not take him in the first round. I don't know if I would take. I think second round is good value for him, but I would not be touching him there. I don't want much to do with him, but that is just me. Even if he's back in Seattle, I think Jordan Brooks was significantly better than him this year. But I do get it. If he signs somewhere and is every down linebacker, he's going to be a top 10 play for sure. But will he get there?
Steve has a counterpoint. Steve.
Yeah. So the rebuttal on that, Wagner's tape is garbage. He's tired. That's what you expect out of 31-year-old player, or how old he is now, player, right? When you look at average depth per tackle on these players, context matters. There's some guys getting dragged down the field 7-8 yards, some guys whatever. The average depth per tackle for the NFL, what's like 5-6%? He's 3.1. So if you get him on the field and you put him there, you put him in the center, he's going to make tackles, so there's points. I'm just chasing points. Now, a good argument would be why am I looking at last year's stats? Because at least I have something to gamble with. Ernest, we don't know yet. So it's the classic 1 in the hand versus 2 in the bushes. Which one? I don't know.
Okay. Johnny. Yeah, Johnny, we saw Aluakan go ahead of Smith. You agree with that?
I think it's tough. I think right now that's fair. Foye, I want to say over the last three years, he finished number 1 of all time, then number 2 in total tackles, and now this year was 11. That's of all NFL, history. That's the whole history. So he definitely has that rap sheet. He's a banger there. I really like him. I don't think Devin Lloyd scares me there. I think Foye, he did have an 80-yard touchdown, so you might want to take that away and take it with a grain of salt. But it happened. Players. He was in the right place at the right time. He just year after year, depending on your scoring, the leagues I play. Especially tackle heavy, he's coveted. He's the number 1 guy, so I don't have a problem with that. If you told me that Roquan was going to have the better year next year, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think those guys are neck and neck right now, especially not considering dynasty and redraft. I'm all worried about age here. Maybe Patrick Queen, his big year scares you a little bit away from Roquan, but I think these guys are perhaps number 1 and 2 overall at linebacker. So,
okay, great, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move into round 2. And Mr. Sicoli has already made his remote pick, and he says, "Screw it, Will Henderson, breakout time." And so he likes having the dual edge to start his team here. So Will Anderson paired with Daniil Hunter. So that is our first pick of round 2. And now we will move on to Steve.
Yeah, so this will be another one people don't really pay attention to, and I don't care, to be honest. Out of this guy set the Denver Broncos tackling records from all the way back from 1987. Double-digit tackles, 11 out of 13 weeks, and he's your number 4 scorer in his format. So until otherwise proven or tested, I'm going to take Alex Singleton, and if it's high, I'm good with it.
Alex Singleton from the Denver Broncos. Okay. So we go from a team with 2 edges to a team with 2 linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
And now we switch over to Joe, who has Ernest Jones with the first pick on this team. And who's going to pair with Ernest Jones?
I'm going to go with the number 4 scoring linebacker last year in this format and former Colt, Bobby Okereke, with the Giants. Don't see much competition in that room. I know there was some Micah McFadden hype around, but I don't see that anything from him.
Okay, so we have 2 linebackers with Ernest Jones and Okereke, and we will switch to Team 9. And Team 9 is JJ, who started off with the young, vibrant Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pair him with another younger guy, youngish, who obviously his team owner thought enough of that he refused to trade him. So I'm going to go with Brian Burns at edge from Carolina.
Love that pick.
Brian Burns to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. Okay, we are going to Johnny next to see who he's going to pair with Josh Allen.
Well, who I'm going to pair with Josh Allen, I think this guy keeps continuing to trend up and up, getting better every year. A lot of people thought maybe Tremaine Edmonds coming to Chicago was going to interrupt his flow, but it didn't happen. I'm picking TJ Edwards here. Very safe tackle floor. He had 155 this year total combined. Still had his sacks. Last year he had 2. This year was 2.5. Did have 3 picks, 8 tackles for loss is pretty solid. Forced the fumble. I think just, you're not really looking for him to get the sacks. 2.5 is nothing to write home about. It's solid, but it pads the stats. The fact that this guy's such a consistent tackler. Tremaine Edmonds, who was, a banger 2 in Buffalo, came there, didn't even have a sack, wasn't rushing the quarterback much, was dropping back in coverage. It in fact did not inhibit TJ Edwards' flow. So I think he's a safe pick here by far.
TJ Edwards with the pick here. Okay. And then Sean wrapping up the first half of round 2.
So I'm actually torn between a couple linebackers here. And I'm going to go with a bigger name in hopes the other one makes it back to me later on. And the one I'm going to go with is Fred Warner, who's been Mr. Consistent his entire career. He's hardly ever a number 1 guy, but he's probably the safest, most consistent one you can get.
Fred Warner. So Team 7 starts off with a pair of stud linebackers in Roquan and Fred Warner. Okay, so let's see if Mr. Sicoli has let us know his next pick here. The savior of Chicago, master of all things sacks, and of course led 2 teams for the first time ever in sacks for a season. Montez Sweat of the Chicago Bears goes to Michael in Team 6 here. Okay, we move to Team 5. Who had Nick Bosa the first time around, and that'll be Steve.
Yeah, not a lot here. I'm taking Zaire Franklin. He's a top 10 linebacker, top 4 most weeks. It just fits. It's a nice name, kind of catchy. I'll pair him with Nick Bosa.
Zaire Franklin and Nick Bosa. A nice tandem there with Team 5. Okay, Team 4, we go to Joe. Joe, I believe you're on mute.
I totally was not on mute. No, definitely was. Sorry about that. I'm going to go with another young guy who did very well in the scoring last year. Ended up as the 6th overall player. And that is the Bills' Terrell Bernard.
Terrell Bernard.
He suffered what looked like was a scary injury last week, but apparently still either limited or just on the injury report, not just on IR. So that's a good sign that he won't be out next year. Really blew up once Matt Milano went out, and seems like he's going to have a lock on that job for the future. So, yeah.
Okay, Terrell Bernard. Okay, let's go to team 3 and JJ.
Now, point of order. This is 5 positions, right?
Yes,
That is correct.
All right.
Definitely 5 positions.
Don't do
Well,
it.
I'm going to bust the seal on defensive tackles and go with a homer pick, Quinnen Williams. I love Quinnen Williams. I love his energy. I love everything he brings to the team. Quinnen Williams for the win.
Quinnen Williams, we have our first defensive tackle on the board now. Okay, we are on to Johnny with team 2.
You might call this one a hot take here, but based off recent play and the type of player they are, what we saw the last month of the season, I know that the first maybe 12 weeks were a little bit spotty, but JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Cleveland, he's somebody that maybe if I'm tackles heavy, if sacks and premium plays aren't so rich here, if it's just 2 points for solos, 1 for assist, maybe I stay away from him. But with this scoring, how complete it is, 5 points, a sack. I think he had 3.5 or maybe even more. Forced fumbles were there. This guy makes a bunch of splash plays. So it might not be the sexiest pick, but I think this is a sneaky pick.
JOK. Okay. See what I did there? Boom, boom. Okay. Sean, to wrap up round 2. I'm full of bad dad jokes, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, so JJ had me worried when he said he was going defensive tackle. I thought he was going to take my guy here. He didn't, so I appreciate that. It's DeForest Buckner. The old man
Buckner from the Colts.
Consistent. I mean, you can't find a more consistent player throughout any position, offense, defense, whatever. This guy is money every week.
Okay, so let's recap for our listening audience. We'll recap the second round, and then we'll have a few questions for y'all. So the first 4 of round 2 went Will Anderson, Alex Singleton, Bobby Okereke, and Brian Burns. Your next 4 were TJ Edwards, Fred Warner, Montez Sweat, and Zaire Franklin. And your last 4 rounding out round 2, Terrell Bernard, Quinnen Williams, JOK, because I know I'll butcher the last name otherwise, and DeForest Buckner. Okay, so on Bobby Okereke, Joe, any concerns with Wink Martindale potentially leaving and maybe a scheme change or something? Would that influence any thoughts around Bobby Okereke?
Not really. I don't think Martindale's scheme is it's wild, but I think Okereke kind of fits well in any scheme. He did well in the Gus Bradley-esque scheme or the Matt Eberflus as well, but solid numbers, and those are very not the same defense. Doesn't super concern me. And it's not like he's a huge blitz threat anyway, so.
Okay. JJ, Montez Sweat, he goes to the Bears, picks up 6 sacks. Everybody, I don't know if I should say everybody, but several people, including myself, who has Montez Sweat in Dynasty League, said, oh my gosh, this is going to kill his value. But it really didn't. So do you still feel good about Montez in Chicago as we look ahead to next year?
Yeah, I wanted to draft him where I took Quinnen Williams, but unfortunately he had already gone. I thought it was impressive what he did. The change of scenery seems to have lit a little bit of a fire under him. So it was great to see. And yeah, I think he's going to do some great things.
Okay. And Steve, Zaire Franklin, it seemed like EJ Speed might have been outplaying and outproducing as the year progressed when Shaq Leonard got out the way. Thoughts on Zaire and I don't want to spoil maybe a future pick around EJ Speed, but thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just sent you a DM, Rick, in the Discord. So if you can check that if you don't mind. But yeah, I'm not a Zaire Franklin truther. I was just going around the board. But EJ Speed outplayed Zaire Franklin the last half of the season. If you look at it and you add it up, EJ Speed was a LB2 on the air, and I think Zaire Franklin was like a LB 60-ish, whatever. I sent a tweet on it. You guys can look at it, whatever. But yeah, I'm not the biggest Zaire Franklin, but I mean where I got him at 2.8, and ahead of other guys that. So I went the value there.
Okay. All right. So Steve just let me know that life happens and he's got to go and take care of something related to his family. So he's going to do the rest of the draft offline. So Steve, thank you very much, buddy. And we'll actually spend time critiquing your picks like we do Michael's. Okay.
Heck yeah. All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into round 3 now. And at the top of round 3 is Sean.
All right, so this team has locked up a top edge rusher and possibly the top defensive tackle. And a lot of good linebackers have went, so I think it's time to take one so we don't get too far behind here. I'm a little torn between two guys. And if I knew for sure the one was returning to his team, I would probably take him. But for now, yeah, I'm going with Robert Spillane.
Robert Spillane is the
really
first pick of round 3.
Really like what he did there this past year with the Raiders. I do think he has that position locked down. Antonio Pierce is going to be back. And it does not concern me that I have 2 Raiders in my starting group here. So don't be scared of that, guys.
That was going to be one of my questions for later, but you beat me to it. Okay. So, Johnny, you are up with pick number 2.
All right. So my last pick was kind of, I want to say with JOK, like it was in comparison to poor man's pick of Terrell Bernard. That's kind of what I went off there, a linebacker who does it all. If Bernard was there, I would have taken him over JOK, but he wasn't. Good pick there. I think that was Joe. With this pick, I'm going to go another poor man's player, and I think maybe a bad comparison here, but a poor man's Bobby Wagner. In regards of age and style of play, I'm going to take here. I'm going with Levante David. As long as he returns, because the tackles. I mean, of his 12 years played, 10 of them have been over 100 plus combined, and this year I'm going to say he was at 154, something like that, 150 plus tackles. The sacks were there, 4.5 sacks. So in this style of play, that number plays. 17 tackles for loss, though, is the number that I'm really going at. 17 tackles for loss. There you go. Your tackles for loss are 1. Solo tackles, those are maybe 40 points right there based on the tackles for loss alone. So I think Devin White, we've seen him fizzle. Maybe he doesn't return, but maybe someone steps up and is a immediate impact for Tampa Bay. But as long as Levante David is there, he's a banger. I want him.
Okay. Levante David. Okay, so let's go to the third pick of this round with JJ.
All right. I'm in a bit of a quandary. I need a linebacker here. That's what I want to pick. I don't know really what direction to go in. I always get torn when it comes to linebackers between young and old. And of course, oh my word, I don't know what to do. So I am going to pick, and this is a panic order like at a restaurant. I'm going with the young kid. I'm going with Nick Bolton because I think he's going to take a step forward next year. So I'm going Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton.
I already regret it. God damn it. Go on.
It's not bad at all, dude. He was like top 3 last year, in all the mocks. So he's forgotten. You should be fine.
Yep.
I should have gone with Michael Bolton instead. Damn it.
No, I don't know if Michael Bolton would have gotten as many tackles as Nick Bolton. Well, except for women chasing him when he was younger, but that's a different story.
Might have got tackled more, right?
Yeah, exactly. He would have gotten tackled more. Exactly right. Okay, Joe would pick number 4 of this round.
So I'm between 2 linebackers here. Still want to go linebackers early. Feel confident that I can pick off the other positions, especially D tackle and corner. the two players I'm between, one is currently a free agent, so not knowing where they end up kind of drops them a little bit. So I'm going to pivot and go with another fellow Wyoming Cowboy, and Logan Wilson. A little bit of a tiebreaker there, just being there at the same time he was, and he made fun of one of my best friends in front of me at one point, which was hilarious. So very deserved. It wasn't just Logan being mean; it was very deserved. But yeah. So he had 135 tackles last year, 123 the year before, and 100 before that. So 3 years in a row hitting triple digits and only increasing. Jermaine Pratt did ascend towards the end of last year, which does concern me a little bit, but still think Wilson is locked in as a linebacker too. Always good for a couple picks and sacks each year. So a little bit of upside with that consistency.
Okay, great pick with Logan Wilson there. Okay, Steve is up, and of course, as I mentioned, life happens for Steve, so we'll see if he was able to join, if not remotely, while we're giving him a chance to potentially make the pick here. I do want to go ahead and mention that we have a great thing going at IDP Guys / IDP Plus in the near future. We have some terrific content, terrific tools, terrific rankings, terrific people such as my esteemed colleagues on this mock draft right now that are very involved. And we have a special going right now. If you haven't tried us out, we have a 1 month special for $1. Use the promo code mock draft, and you can get a month to check out everything from IDP Guys for $1. It's a limited time, subject to change, but please take advantage of it. If you haven't been to our website, it's well worth it. I think you'll see that that $1 be well spent, and hopefully you will join the family. Okay, let's see. Do we have Steve making a pick yet? I don't see it right now, so I'm going to have to make a pick for him, it looks like. And I'm going to go with someone who, on the one hand, there's a lot of people talking about a lot of sacks were forced into him. But on the other hand, I see a lot of explosion and capability out of him. So I'm going to add Kayvon Thibodeau to Steve's team here as team 5 as an edge pick. Kayvon Thibodeau. Because I'm not scared about the Wink Martindale change either. Okay, team 6, Michael. And let's see if we're hearing from Michael here on the side in terms of who he's going to pick. Okay, so Mike was saying that this person has definitely earned a pick in the 3rd round. I know from the Start Sit show, he has been a big fan of this person. He's kind of taken over as the #1 defensive end for the Saints as Cam Jordan has aged a little bit.
Good pick.
And that person is Carl Granderson, which is a very good pick for the middle of the 3rd round. Oh, another Wyoming person. That is correct, Joe. Who would have thought we'd have this many Wyoming picks in our first 2 mock drafts between the offense last week and the IDP this week? Okay. Sean, we are back to you.
So Granderson was probably going to be my pick here for this team. Since we're not super crazy about any of the other edge rushers right now, we're going to continue to pound out these linebackers. And I think we're going to rock with Quincy Williams on this one. Had a breakout season.
Quincy Williams.
I was afraid he was going to go higher just on the hype that he earned last year. And I do expect them to regress a bit just because Aaron Rodgers coming back should keep the defense off the field a little bit more. So, but as my linebacker 3, he's fantastic potential.
Quincy Williams it is, and the Jets fan who is coming up shortly is shaking his head, so we'll be interested to hear his comments in a bit. Johnny is up with the next pick.
All right, with my next pick here, I'm looking at a linebacker. I got that edge sealed up. To me, yeah, linebacker with tackles is a very bankable, very judgeable statistic here, and also somebody who gives me a little bit more than just tackles. I'm rolling with Patrick Queen. Had a career year for him. It was 133 tackles. He had 3.5 sacks, which was maybe down for him. He had 5 in 2022. Repeated his tackles for loss with 9. did also have an interception, a forced fumble, and a recovery. So with his safe tackle floor, the fact that he wasn't disrupted much by Roquan Smith, it's not to me. It's not this might be the highest it gets. Hopefully, it stays this way. The stats for Patrick Queen. Maybe he rushes the quarterback a little bit more next year. We'll see. But I think for a safe pick here, Patrick Queen, pencil me in.
Patrick Queen as the pick for Team 8. And by the way, for those that are watching on video and not just on voice, to the side here is our producer for the show, who's actually inputting all the picks. So that's why you sometimes see me whispering to the side. That's my son, Andrew. So I want to thank him personally. But also at the same time, his computer was about to die. So we're quickly getting him battery power. So our draft board didn't suddenly fall off the screen. Okay, we are next on to JJ. And JJ, when Quincy Williams was picked, I saw you kind of making some nonverbal expressions there. So you are up now, sir.
Yeah, that was a terrible pick. I mean, if he would have gone, that was way too early. He should be going right around now.
Yeah, right.
Because this is a good spot for him. But I can't help Sean picking somebody too early. Again, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. I'm going to go with Jordan Brooks. I mean, there was somebody who flashed early in his career. Now, hopefully, he's going to get that chance now that Wagner is gone, and he seems to have matured a little bit. So I'm looking forward to a full year post-injury and just seeing what Jordan Brooks can do up in Seattle.
Jordan Brooks is the pick here. And coming off some injuries, that will be interesting. He has put points on the board when he's been on the field, but he's been dealing with some injuries the last couple of years. But very interesting pick there for sure. Okay, so Steve has made it in. And Steve, you are on the clock. I don't know if you can hear us or not to make your pick.
I think this is my team, actually.
Oh, my apologies, Joe. Okay, yeah,
No,
he put it in the wrong slot. Yes, that threw me off a little bit. Okay, Joe, you are up.
I know, I was looking at it too, like, wait a second. So I'm going to take an edge rusher here, one who I'm surprised is still available with the 33rd, 34th pick. Trey Hendrickson. He ended the season tied for second in sacks.
Nice.
Not someone I am super high on year to year. I know the year before he only had 8. But last year's production speaks for itself. Joe Burrow's going to be back hopefully this year, which will do wonders for the Bengals offense and probably have them ahead more often than not. So some more opportunity for him there. And in the third round, this as my edge one, I will gladly take that.
Had a fantastic year. Okay, and so next up is Steve let us know, even though he didn't put his name in the 10th slot, he's actually in the 11th slot, and he is picking Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants. So his previous team, I picked Kayvon for him before he was able to join back in, and he's going with Azeez Ojulari. Azeez, on a per snap basis, had extremely high sack count. And so if he can stay healthy and on the field, and if that efficiency translates over more snaps, could be an outstanding pick. So Azeez Ojulari for Team 11. Okay. All right, let's see what we have for Michael coming in here potentially. With Michael on the clock here. So while Michael's on the clock, he is excited that over the back half of the season, once Montez Sweat arrived in Chicago, he improved, and they're paying him a big part to do more, and that doesn't change. And so he is picking Tremaine Edmonds. And Michael just brought up a great point. He is saying that he thinks Steve probably meant Azeez Al-Shahir from the Titans as opposed to Azeez Ojulari, which would make sense as well. So we're going to assume that's Aziz Ojolari in that. I mean, not in that spot, but Aziz Al Shahir, and I will see if we can fix it as we get into round 4. But to recap, first round 3, the first 4 picks: Robert Spillane, Levante David, Nick Bolton, and Logan Wilson. The next 4 picks: Kayvon Thibodeau, Carl Granderson, Quincy Williams, and Patrick Queen. And our last 4 picks: Jordan Brooks, Trey Hendrickson, Aziz Al Shahir. Thank you, Andrew, our producer, for fixing that, and Tremaine Edmonds. Okay, so a couple of questions on this real quick. Quincy Williams had a fantastic year. As the year progressed, not quite as strong. CJ Mosley still on the board. So Team 7, Sean, was there any thought to Mosley in that spot?
No, I'm moving off Mosley right now with his age and everything, and I feel like Williams outplayed him for the most part on the field. Aziz Al Shahir was the other guy I was considering back here, but what kept me off him was not knowing where he's going to play. If I knew for sure he was coming back to Tennessee, I would probably have taken Al Shahir over Quincy, but with the known, variable there of Quincy being with the Jets and having so much experience in that defense, I felt very, very confident with taking Williams after that.
Okay. So the Tremaine Edmonds pick, a lot of people were a little bit disappointed in his performance this year. In the 3rd round, Michael's not here to defend himself. So, Johnny, your thoughts on the Tremaine Edmonds pick here at the end of round 3?
So with Tremaine Edmonds, I do like him still. He's still a coveted tackler. He still has a safe floor of tackles. I do prefer TJ Edwards, who I took over him, not only in redraft but dynasty. I think that Tremaine Edmonds, he was in Buffalo for a while. We got accustomed to the tackles for loss, rushing the passer. Didn't record a sack this year. That was kind of disappointed. He did have, I want to say, 4 picks, but if you go back and watch it again, take it with a grain of salt. I think 2 of those fell in his lap. Maybe it's right time, right place, but I think he kind of got lucky there. So with the tackles being lower than what he was coming from Buffalo, maybe I would take a couple players over him, but I think he's still, if you're chasing tackles and you're somebody that's saying, hey, it's tough to gauge sacks, it's tough to gauge picks, I think that's a safe pick, but I don't see much upside with him.
Okay,
he would be hard
Johnny.
to trust as your top linebacker, I think.
Which on this team he had Hunter and Will Anderson, so he started with 2 edge. And he is in an edge, and so this is his first linebacker, so it is a bit of a risky call. That's a great point, Sean, as well. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to round 4 then. And Michael has let us know his pick for this team. So joining Tremaine Edmonds and Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, he is adding Frankie Louvu from the Carolina Panthers. So a couple years ago, we saw Louvu with a ton of sacks. This year, not as many sacks, but we did see more tackles. Did see him playing over 95% of the snaps in most games and so forth. So very, very, very good and interesting pick there by Michael. Okay, Steve, you are up with pick number 2 of round 4. And let's see if Steve has put something into the chat here that we can take a look at for our audience. Not yet. We'll give him about 30 more seconds and all. So while we're waiting for that, Joe, thoughts on Michael's pick of Louvu there?
I like Frankie Louvu. I think that's a good pick here to a rebound. I know his season went off the rails a little bit. He battled some injury, but also the real thing that hurt him was Shaq Thompson going out in week 1 that he got hurt? It was week 1 or 2. That it kind of forced Louvu
very early in the year
to be a traditional middle linebacker instead of a kind of hybrid linebacker edge, kind of honestly like the kind of Micah Parsons role that he was playing. So hopefully Thompson gets back, or they're able to add another vet linebacker to let Louvu kind of let him loose again. But I think it's a great upside shot. And even if he doesn't, is just a middle linebacker, then he's still fine, especially in the 4th round. But if they get another guy in there and he could just be a weapon, then he could get an absolute steal.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, I haven't heard from Steve yet, so I'm going to make the pick for his team. And we're going to pick someone who got off to a great start, had some injury issues, and his production slowed down. But it looked like as we got to later in the year, the health started coming back. And we're going to add a 4th linebacker to this team. We're going to add Quay Walker from the Green Bay Packers to this team. And I got some people snarling at me as I made that pick on Steve's behalf. There.
It means you did
Okay,
good.
so we are now on to Joe with this pick.
So looks like we're missing some defensive backs here. So I'm going to take my first defensive back. And it is not going to be who typically would be the first defensive back, but I'm going to go high upside here. Hasn't been as consistent, but Kyle Hamilton, player I absolutely adore. Think he's incredible. Think he's a top 20 player in the league already. If you look at his usage it was a little up and down as the Ravens' entire secondary was hurt for the first half of the year. But, I just did this right up. And I think it was over the last 8 games, he spent 85% of snaps in the box slot area, which those numbers might be a little off, but which is elite for a safety. And his skill set, he can get 2 picks in a game. He can get 3 sacks in a game. He can get 8 tackles. DB is going to be a little more volatile, but I think he has the highest upside, and I think he can have a pretty decent floor as well. 4th round, I'll gladly take him as my top DB.
So the defensive back seal is broken with Kyle Hamilton here in round 4. Okay, we are on to JJ next. JJ.
I kind of say in every one of these drafts that I'm not a homer. And yet the evidence would prove otherwise. I have kind of a young team going here, young-ish. I'm going to add a veteran at linebacker who I know, Sean didn't like, but I'm going with CJ Mosley. I think he's vital to that defense. And if Robert Saleh trusts him, so do I. So CJ Mosley.
CJ Mosley of the New York Jets, kind of talked about him a little bit earlier, potentially as a 3rd rounder, fall into the 4th round. Some pretty good value there with that homer pick. Okay, so then now we're switching to Johnny. Johnny.
All right, for this one, I'm going to break a seal too. I'm going to break the. Actually, I don't think I'm breaking a seal. Was there a defensive tackle taken?
Yeah, too early.
Yeah, there was defensive tackle.
Yes, we've had a couple.
I'll add to that. Yeah, I'll go with Christian Wilkins, a model of consistency for Miami. A lot of people say that things will stay the same down in Miami, and that should be the case. They got a pretty darn good team. Wilkins, 65 total tackles, a career high 9 sacks, 2 breakups, 1 forced fumble, 2 recoveries. Looking at the last 2 years, I mean, there's other guys that at defensive tackle, Christian Barmore, some other guys that might have more potential. You might pick Chris Jones, but for me, the last 3 years have been absolutely spectacular for Wilkins. He set a record last year, which was broken this year by Derek Brown, but he had the tackles for defensive tackle all-time record. So, if you think maybe Derek Brown's year is a fluke, I don't. But I think that Christian Wilkins offers the less risk at the defensive tackle position. He's a stalwart. He's a cog of my defense right here and of Miami's defense. I think they sure him up next year. That's the only risk, I think, is contract with Christian Wilkins. But as great as he's been, I think that they bring him back.
Okay, Christian Wilkins. And that'll be a key part. Will he be a part of Fangio and the Dolphins defense? Not as we move forward, but in very good value here in round 4. Okay, so now we are on to Sean as we wrap up the first half of round 4. Sean, who are you going with?
Yeah, so looking at my team, I've got 3 really good linebackers, and edge rushers are getting slimmer by the day here. There's a couple I'm really considering. I'm a little torn here. I got questions with all of them. But I think my pick's actually going to be Matt Judon. He's been forgotten. He's a great player when he's on the field. I know he's a little older. Should have plenty of time to recover from his injuries. With the new coaching system coming in, I don't know for sure how that's going to affect him. But I've seen on, different teams him produce. So he gets back to the quarterback. If he doesn't get the sack, he's getting you some hit points. So he's not going to goose egg me.
Okay. So Matthew Judon with the pick here. And Michael has his, what he thinks is his favorite 2024 breakout. He's been mentioned in the weekly newsletter that Michael puts out for IDP guys every Wednesday during the season. He's explosive. He's really talented. I don't disagree with this pick at all. Jermaine Johnson of the New York Jets goes with this pick here.
Knew he was going to do this. Knew he was going to do it to me.
Who is that? Sicoli.
Okay, and then Steve is on the clock, and we'll see.
Good job, Sicoli. Good job.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
We're not supposed to compliment him when he's not here, but it's hard to argue with the pick.
Sorry. Great job for a
All right,
bad
Steve is on the clock, and he was having trouble.
Try.
I dig it.
So Steve's on the clock here. He let me know he's having trouble with the app. We'll see if he can get in to let us back in to let us know with his pick. But this team has Nick Bosa, Zaire Franklin, and so Bosa, Thibodeau, and Franklin. And he seemed happy with EJ Speed when we were talking a little bit earlier. And so I'm going to add to this team on Steve's behalf EJ Speed. So I have a feeling when he sees what I drafted for him, but EJ Speed we're going to add to this team. And then that puts Joe on the clock.
So I'm going to take another safety here. Derwin James this time. All reliable, had an up and down year this year, but hopefully they get competent coaching in there, so which would help him out a lot. He's been awesome. He's been top safety, at least preseason and dynasty-wise for a while. Keep that going.
And he had plenty of questions at linebacker in front of him, so
Absolutely.
There's no slowing down there.
So Derwin James of the Joe. And now we're going to go back to JJ for team 3.
All right. This is the point of the draft where, like, every time I see a guy available who I'm interested in, but then I look at everybody else who decided not to go with them, like, I start questioning myself and who I am at my core. So I'm going to overlook that. And I hope when I say this name, like, I don't get made fun of. But Dre Greenlaw is still good, right? Like, Dre Greenlaw is a good linebacker. He seems to have fallen quite far, but I'm going to take Dre Greenlaw. I need linebacker help. I only have Nick Bolton, and I regretted that choice, so I'm just going to add regret. Let's go.
Yeah, no hate. That wasn't bad.
Did you want me to say something else?
He's petrified. Scared him to death. Oh, so we got a little bit of lag. That's all right. Nah, yeah. Greenlaw, he has fallen, and I think that's because he was a little injured last year, and just we had such a good season out of Fred Warner this year that Greenlaw got kind of lost, forgotten. So you're getting pretty good value from his slide, which is what you want.
I just want to shout out Greenlaw. I remember you, buddy. Like like a little motivation, a little pep talk for the guy.
JJ's got you.
Yeah. So my apologies for the freezing that happened there. but we have Dre Greenlaw going to JJ there. And I think it's Steve is unhappy with my picks, and somehow he is messing with my home internet as a result of the picks that I've made for him, because he's unhappy with the picks I made. So that's why I think I'm freezing. Okay, Johnny.
All right, for my last pick here, I have a tough decision. I'm sitting at 3 linebackers. I don't know if in this scoring I could push Watt to edge. You know, that would be nice. Make things easier for me if that's the case. Regardless, I'm probably needing another position here. Now, I'm thinking a cornerback or a defensive back. To me, I'm going to roll with the cornerback, because I think that, look, for example, like a Cameron Bynum, Julian Blackman. It always seems to be, not to say in the cornerback position isn't streamable, but it seems like the safeties, top safeties year after year, a lot of them, can be found in waivers during the weeks, early weeks, pickups. You don't have to spend a premium on that. A lot of times you get let down by doing that, unless it's a Derwin James or maybe even Winfield. I think it's kind of a gamble to go invest in a defensive back, safety, I'll say. But for your cornerbacks, man, I mean, if you can get a solid cornerback and not have to stream that, I've been seeing a lot of times you roll in the year with a cornerback, you take a chance, you might let them live for 2 or 3 weeks and get burnt those 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not going to let that happen here. And so I'm going to take Kenny Moore as a cornerback. I know it might be a hot take. A lot of people like L'Jarius Sneeds, those kind of players that are making big splash plays. Kenny Moore is also on that list. He had 3 picks this year. 2 of them were in the same game, taken back for house calls, so with a grain of salt. But I'm looking more over his track record. I mean, 2021, he had 102 total tackles. The last 3 years, he's gotten at least a sack. This year was a sack and a half. A lot of corners don't play like that, and somebody who's really aggressive in tackling, I don't think you can go to the cornerback position and say, I want Deron Bland because he had so many picks. That's tough to gauge year to year. But what you can gauge is tackles. And Kenny Moore is a model of consistency at the cornerback position. So I'm going to play it safe there. I'm not going to aim for the stars, but I am going to play it safe with Kenny Moore.
Kenny Moore, so our first cornerback off the board from Johnny.
I love that pick. Moore is my favorite player on the Colts.
And then
love it.
Rightly so.
And then rounding out round 4 and rounding out our mock draft with the final pick here of round 4 is Sean.
Yeah, so I'm looking at all positions with the way this team is built. Linebacker is probably somewhere I should go, and somebody like Caden Ellis, but I'm also looking at another edge rusher to pair with Max Crosby. Somebody like Harold Landry, could pop off again. That's somebody I'm really interested in. But for this mock, I'm going to take another safety here, and it's going to be Antoine Winfield, who has been phenomenal this past year. He's been all over the field. There's nothing but questions at linebacker. Is Levante David coming back? Where's Devin White going to be? So we're potentially looking at an aging player in front of him, possibly some new blood in there. We're looking at possible mistakes coming up, which means Winfield can come in there and cover him. Basically, he's going to come up there and get all the tackles everybody else is missing. He can get sacks. He can force the fumbles. He can get interceptions. He's just the total package for me at safety.
Antoine Winfield it is. And so that concludes our 4-round mock draft. So I'm going to recap round 4, but as I'm recapping, I'd love our esteemed panel here, our esteemed colleagues, to think about some of the best picks they had, some of maybe their picks they regret. Looking at the teams that didn't draft, maybe which one was their favorite and why. A bigger surprise maybe of the draft. So we'll come back and answer those questions, but let me recap round 4 as y'all are thinking about that. So recapping round 4, the first 4 picks were Frankie Louvu, Quay Walker, Mr. Hamilton, Kyle Hamilton from the Ravens, and CJ Mosley. The middle 4, Christian Wilkins, Matthew Judon, Jermaine Johnson, and EJ Speed. And then wrapping up the last 4 picks of round 4, Derwin James, Dre Greenlaw, Kenny Moore, Antoine Winfield. So 3 of the last 4 picks were defensive backs. Okay, so let's start off with Sean. Sean, your favorite pick of the draft. Maybe it was because of great value in a certain round. Surprised someone fell that far, or maybe it was your first pick. What was your favorite pick of the draft?
Of the entire draft?
Of the entire draft.
Oh boy. So yeah, that one's probably Nick Bolton in what, 3rd round? He's somebody that was top 3, is probably still top 3 in Dynasty, and to be honest, I forgot about him. Just because of this season, he was banged up and missed a lot of time, and that was bad preparation on my part. So I believe it was JJ that picked him up. That was a great pick in the 3rd round.
All right. So, Joe, specific to your 2 teams, which was your favorite pick?
Amongst my 2 teams, my favorite pick would be it's either Ernest Jones or Kyle Hamilton. Both are upside shots, but I'm not going for the youth there. Probably Hamilton, just breaking the seal there. I feel like getting who I think could be DB1 that late. I like it's risky, but it's also a very fun pick.
Okay. So, Johnny, now thinking about looking at the entire draft, biggest surprise of the draft for you? Maybe it's someone who hasn't been picked yet. Maybe it was the timing of when certain things went off the board. What was kind of the biggest surprise for you, Johnny? And JJ, I think I'm going to ask you the same question as well.
Well, I'm going to refer JJ on this one. I think he was the one who picked Jordan Brooks, correct, JJ?
I was.
Jordan Brooks. A lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth with Jordan Brooks, but this is a guy who I want to say 2 years ago led the league in tackles. He's not too removed from that. I think he's 24 or 25 years old. Somebody who maybe, if you ask me, a top 12 on my dynasty, I'd give him a vote of confidence and put him in there. I know this is redraft, but Jordan Brooks, it's really 50-50 with him, and I'm on the side of approval with Jordan Brooks. I think that's a good stab. I mean, if he returns to form, he should easily, if he had a standard year, he'd probably be at least in the 2nd round, if not the 1st. I think Jordan Brooks is a great pick. As much as he burned people the last couple of weeks, the only thing is I was looking into snaps, and I had him on a couple of teams. I'm seeing him put up 20s, and I'm looking at the snaps. Then I'm like, damn, this guy's only playing 80% of snaps, 78%. So I mean, if that number returns to what it was, high 90s, mid 90s, I think he's a stalwart. So I think that was a great pick. We're on a lot of viewers here. You might play easy and say, I'm going to take the safe pick. I give JJ credit because that wasn't a safe pick. I think it's risky, but I'm on the side of I like it.
Okay. All right. So, JJ, you've had a couple of votes for your 3rd round picks on your 2 teams with both Boat and Brooks. But from your perspective, biggest surprise of the draft overall from your thoughts, JJ?
Biggest surprise. I mean, I guess I would have to say, I love Danielle Hunter. I was surprised he went early. I thought he might fall a little bit further to me. That's what I was hoping for. But I loved that pick. I thought it was a good value. I thought he was kind of underrated. Kind of flew under the radar this year, but maybe my radar is just not that strong. Also, Quincy Williams, I have to say to Gary Van Dyke, I used to make fun of Quincy Williams all the time because Quincy Williams was a terrible linebacker for years. He was terrible, dog shit, horrible. And I don't know what happened this year, but I'm surprised that he turned into such a solid linebacker. So I don't know. Quincy, Danielle, good for you guys.
I had Quincy Williams on one of my dynasty teams, and I got so frustrated with him, I dropped him. And boy, do I regret that with that dynasty team right now. I must confess. All righty. Well, look, thank you very much to my wonderful colleagues here, Joe, JJ, Sean, and Johnny. In addition, Steve and Michael, who were doing this remotely as well. So thank you to all of you for great work. Thank you to our audience for joining us for this week's Mock Draft Monday. And we'll be doing more of these. We're going to be doing redraft. We're going to be doing dynasty. We're going to be doing rookie. We're going to do offense. We're going to do IDP. We're going to do offense and IDP. So please join us for those as well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, join the family. Don't forget about that special that I mentioned earlier, $1 for 1 month at idpguys.org, soon to be IDP Plus. As a reminder, use the promo code MOCKDRAFT, limited time, subject to change, but $1 for 1 month. Take advantage of that. With that, I wish everyone great health and happiness. Remember to be nice to one another. We'll see you for the next Mock Draft Monday. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for watching this IDP Guys video. If you like this content and you want more fantasy football content, click here. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos to help you master your IDP league, click here to subscribe.